She loves us. We're great neighbors, and that there is nothing that we do that has bugged her as a neighbor. As far as Little Hill, so the driveway that Kagan would be pulling out of when he does have a trailer with equipment on it or a dump truck is actually the driveway that's farther away from the hill. So he can look. And we are far from the only home that has a hill by it. When we first moved to this house, why the fence got messed up is because we moved in July, and we were living in Lake Fork, Idaho, right behind Coastline Equipment. They called us and told us that they were selling the house and we needed to move out or buy that house. They were asking far too much, and we knew that. When it went up on the market, we offered them a lower price and it ended up selling for like $40,000 less. So we were very glad that we didn't buy that home. This was the only home that we could financially afford. So we did not purchase this house knowing that, like, we didn't start our excavation company knowing that we were going to live here. And we are not operating out of this house. And I would like to state that the fence that did get hit, Kagan called and spoke to them because he felt very bad about that. That was in the time period when we were moving in and everything was really crazy. And he asked what he could do to make that right. And they said, for one, fix the fence, which he is going to. And for two, tear down this old shed that they had out back for free, which he has done. And there's still a little debris to move off. And hold on, I do got some things down. I don't recall a verbal sales agreement, which I've heard a few times. Neither of us recall that. We've talked about that and didn't really know what they were speaking about.
I've stated that the equipment that could be on the property could get pulled with a pickup truck and not a semi. That I did state. And all the equipment that is on property can get pulled with your standard 3/4 ton or 1 ton pickup. So
but we recall being very clear about the fact that as of now, like we're applying for the permit, we would need to park a few pieces of equipment here, but we would not be operating our business out of here.
Yeah. And actually it's light duty equipment. If you actually look in and you're buying equipment, the equipment is considered light duty, not heavy duty equipment. So that's why I stated again that my stuff was pulled with a pickup, not a big rig.
And just one more thing to add is it was very chaotic when we moved in. We had a house fire within 6 months, a chimney fire. We had to move out. We were out all winter long, and then we moved back in last spring, so in June, and we actually camped out back with our 2 children all summer while the house finished getting remodeled. And I'm assuming that if you had somebody come and appraise the house, that it will have gone up tremendously in value. So I certainly do not think that we are affecting the value of this home or property in any way. And I do understand the concern of us operating our business out of here, but if we were wanting to operate our business out of here, then that's what permit we would be applying for. We're applying to park our equipment here. And I am sure that the city and the council knows what they are doing enough that if we were operating a business instead of having our stuff parked here, they would be very aware of it and handle it as needed.
Yeah.
So
we don't run any material out of our property or anything like that. It's strictly parking.
Yeah. And if we could afford to buy property right now, believe me, we would. We have been looking and we want to. So as soon as we are able and our finances can afford it and we can purchase a piece of property that we are allowed to have all our stuff and get permits and do whatever we need to actually run a business out of that location, we would absolutely love to do that. And one of the girls did mention something about the city with helping storage and parking and stuff. And if there is an option like that that is financially available to us that we can afford, we would way be interested in that.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that that is all of our comments, unless you have something else to say.
Nope, that's pretty much, we just need to be able to park, not to operate and run material out of our area. And the majority of the equipment is off-site because it's at work most of the summer. And I do know there's a problem with this, so don't get me wrong, machines come and go, but I mainly keep them on site and leave them from job to job over the summer until it kind of becomes time to deal with a small problem they've had, or I don't know, pretty much get them ready to do something else, put the snow chains on them or something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, discussion, any questions for staff? Questions on any of the items?
I might have missed this, but where do they operate their business out of? I mean, they got to have billing and they got to have a location to do this. And I'm sure you're working on that equipment there in the shop occasionally. It seems logical you'd do it out of that shop. Where do you have your business?
So I do computer work here. Yes,
Now,
definitely.
where's there? Where you are right now? Are you in your home right now?
Yeah, we're 805
So
South.
So you're operating the business out of your home then, correct?
No, not at
Tony, I
all.
can speak to that.
Do it.
So a home occupation business is where floor space is dedicated to a commercial business, and that's more than doing the books. So if they're doing the books and the booking for services that happen off-site within their home, that's just as allowed as it is for,
Well, yeah.
I can't think of, an accountant who works from home. So they're allowed to do the books at home. They just can't, for example, mix concrete or do any digging somehow through a portal from their property on another property, which would be physically impossible to excavate a different parcel from one parcel. But they can do their books, and many businesses do. Once they start doing actual commercial business, like creating concrete on the site, then they would need to actually do industrial work, occupation type business. And if it took up floor space of their home or actual square footage of their property to do what they're being paid to do, or hosting clients on the site, then they need to fill out a home occupation license with the city of McCall. So hairdressers do that a lot, daycares do that a lot. But this is a strange, unique one where really the only thing this type of business can do on the site is park stuff and do the books.
Oh, I see. Okay. I didn't know that.
Brian, one thing, showing the 0 setbacks, is that from the landscaping, or not landscaping, but is there the buffer wall there, or just because that house was built there however many years ago and that's just what it is?
Yeah, it's an old existing non-conforming house and old non-conforming barn. Since they're not proposing to do any changes to either of those, there's no requirement to modify them.
And so if they did, that would basically be an expansion of a non-conformity, so it already basically prohibited. We wouldn't need to add anything in there to
Right.
not increase the size of buildings, so they actually have more of an operation of any kind.
Yeah, the non-conforming code generally discourages expanding non-conforming.
Okay.
Does the new retaining wall, Brian, fit into that? How does that work? And how does the setback with that?
Retaining walls taller than 30 inches are required to stand by.
And I guess then if there's a height limit on it, I guess there'd be a question of what is the retaining wall that's being put in.
Is 4 feet or 30 inches. Meredith, do you recall off the top of your head which one has to meet setbacks?
Setbacks is 30 inches, but I think that it's a landscaped berm from the work they've been doing with Kurt.
Yeah, I think it is a berm.
So it's not a wall.
has any discussion been made? I don't know if it's on the tightness to, I don't know if there's any homes back there right now, but any landscaping to buffer the other side of the property?
The rear.
Yeah, or the south or the northeast corner to kind of hide. I mean, I guess the vehicle's on either side. Is there any, and there's some trees, but I don't know, is there any other discussion been made on, you know, landscape screening?
There is not, but if you wanted to add a condition of approval to add some, that would be reasonable.
So it's, everything's completely out of, in the front part of the property to the west of the barn, everything's out of sight behind it, right there completely. Is that the way I assume it goes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty buffered from the road.
Yeah.
It's just from the other properties you can, I mean, there's nothing on them now, but around that back corner on that side, or there could be
Pretty
some
clear,
additional, you know, landscaping put in there to break that up, so it's not quite as obvious. I mean, obviously there's no homes currently, but that could change at any point.
Sure.
Mhm.
I'm curious about the hours of operation. 8 a.m. I agree that in my experience, many contractors are up and running pretty early in the morning. I guess, Kagan, I'm kind of wondering about that.
That's something where, in order to be compliant with the permit and the timeline provided of the 5 years, if that works out, that I need to be mindful and have that equipment elsewhere. So the only thing starting earlier than that would be a standard pickup or car or recreational vehicle that you would use to transport to work.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just a regular automotive vehicle, for example, that would carry me to work, and then I would get to work to actually occupy with the equipment and stuff that couldn't be started on site at those particular times.
So you consider that more of a logistical issue as your solution? Okay.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. If the equipment's not here, then I'm actually working out somewhere. I'd rather have it not here because I'm actually working.
Sure.
Okay, do you do snow removal in the winter?
Yep, we do snow removal. We got a skid steer and a loader.
And those are the skid steer, I'm assuming that would fit into the category of light equipment that you store on site.
Yeah, and the loader fits into the category of light equipment. And equipment starts about 20,000 pounds and over is heavy duty, and 20,000 and under is light. So, yeah, the skid steer is way on the light side, and the skid steer fits in the barn because or in the garage or shop or whatever you want to call it, just because if it's thawed out, it kind of lasts a little longer being thawed out every night.
Sure. So as far as then that 8 a.m. plowing snow in the wintertime.
I've got all new equipment that plows snow, so they're quieter, and I've taken off the backup, I have the backup alarms on a toggle switch so they can be off in those sorts of situations. But luckily, normally in the winter, there's that layer of snow, so it does dampen the noise, but
And if I can add in a comment on that too, is I will just say, as far as like our neighbor has definitely made it very clear, the one that lives right across the street, that she's had no concern with us being noisy in any way. And I will say, as far as snow removal goes in the winter around here, I think people are like, I'm not saying Kagan's going to turn off his beeper and everything, but I know everywhere I've lived in McCall, I can say that I have been woken up by my plow guy every single morning.
Sure. I guess I'm just trying to understand if that condition of approval is something that you're actually going to be able to adhere to. That's what I'm trying to understand.
The tractors would be parked inside and then taken off down the lot. But I guess that is in the thought of, regardless if a tractor is leaving my property or not, I'm pretty sure that the plow truck that passes 6 times at 4 a.m. in the morning, the blade scraping the ground makes a lot more noise than my tractor idling, for example, which there's plenty of arguments
But like
opposed to it and for it, of course. But again, I've got all 2000 tractors. They're newer. They don't have broken exhaust. They meet EPA standards for not causing a problem. So again, I guess they're not an old tractor that with a broken exhaust that's real loud by any means.
So I believe that you're saying you can pretty much do that as far as if it's something that's loud, it definitely will be after 8
Oh
a.m.
yeah, the diesel trucks are loud. The dump truck is what's loud. The little dump truck is what's loud. Those things, no, those are definitely, I can see causing a problem. But yeah, those tractors are little 50 horse, small. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. They're pretty quiet and pretty light duty. Of course, there can be a reason to complain. I'm sure someone will find.
Is there a mechanic at the shop on a given schedule? Like you say you work on some of the equipment in the shop here that we're talking about parking all the equipment behind. Does a mechanic come there and work during the day, or do you just work on things as they need them, or how does that fit into this scenario?
It's a as needed situation. Say I have an attachment on and I forget to pay attention to taking off the hoses, as one of my employees have done before, and they back away and then a hose breaks or something. So then I got to take it to the shop and fix a light. I call it a light duty problem, or light duty, maybe greasing them. Again, chain up is the biggest problem with the tractors. Chains need redone all the time when it comes to winter. Catastrophic problems I normally send out just because I don't have the capability or know-how to deal with that. I mainly deal with the ordinary problems, I don't know how to explain it. Pop tires, taking the tire off to take it down to Les Schwab. Maybe I ripped a bucket a little bit, so I have to weld it or take the teeth off and put new teeth on.
So you're the only one that's working on equipment at this shop then, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh.
me personally. Yeah, I personally doctor up the equipment from it getting too battered and abused, and again, send it out when it calls for a major breakdown.
Okay.
Business.
Excuse me, sir, we got
Running this.
that doesn't seem, in the condition number 6, no loading or moving of vehicles between those hours is not going to be able to be adhered to in the winter even though they could be quieter and stuff. I don't know if that needs to be amended or
The way it's written,
the
yeah.
way it's written, he's
Yeah.
going to be in violation of it first time winter comes.
Mhm.
Right? It's just, he's going to have to move the equipment.
Equipment doesn't pick a time to break down.
Well, not so much the breakdown, it's just, you're going to be out
I
plowing
guess-
before 8 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning.
Right, you're gonna be pulling your
Depending
equipment.
on the storm, but I
Brian,
don't know how we would, yeah. No.
yeah, I'm just wondering, Brian, if you had any comment about that.
Yeah, the 8 a.m. number was really fairly arbitrary. You could add an exception for snowplow operations, for example, to amend that to be a little more lenient for winter operations. And the other thought that I had was just that if they plan ahead and have the vehicle loaded on a trailer, hitched on a truck, and ready to go as soon the night before, and then they can just get up early, take off.
Right, so you're not out there clanking
Right.
chains and,
Mhm.
So, and this is Ryan, and I guess I got a couple comments about this. For one, it seems like there's this difference of interpretation of what equipment is, and what's business related equipment versus personal related equipment with this application. So I think if we were to continue forward with this, we would want some more clear definitions of what's business related equipment versus personal, and what size of equipment is allowed versus not. those sorts of things. And, you know, looking at the satellite map that Brian's had pulled up, I mean, I don't see how it's going to be possible to hide everything behind the barn. I mean, it just, from the sounds of it, you know, putting in a skid steer, putting in a loader, putting in trailers, dump trucks, I just don't see how it all fits back there. That equipment is quite large, and there's probably no way it does. So it's going to spill out. It won't be hidden. That equipment is also fairly tall, so it's not necessarily going to be hidden behind the berm. So I guess I got some concerns about that kind of stuff, which I think we could probably shore up with better definitions if we wanted to go that route. But at the same time, I think, you know, this is a conditional use permit, and it should be handled similarly to how we've handled others, and, you know, go down through the criteria that need to be met and see whether it checks the boxes or not. I think that's the prudent way to kind of go forward with this, because as I mentioned, I mean, it seems like a lot of this is fairly subjective.
Liz, do you have any comments?
Nothing beyond what's already been stated.
Okay. I guess we want to go down the list of items on the conditional use. Or wait, yeah, Randy, for the conditional use permit.
Sure.
So one, it is an authorized use in the location based on the conditional use. Two,
Where are you seeing that one?
go on page, 3 of 6 of the package. Or actually, I got one of this.
Also,
Starts by 2 of 6.
Starts at 2 and 6, but we're past 1 now.
This is 9, 6. Not even the right section, probably not, huh?
I've got one more question. Sorry, before we do this. Can I ask one more question of staff before we go through these? I'm wondering about enforcement. So assuming we have these conditions, if they're not met, then what?
then we go
Code
through
enforcement, and what was that?
There's a whole chapter in city code on the process of code enforcement.
Okay,
Typically begins with
Yeah.
writing a letter saying non-compliance, and it gets cleaned up pretty quickly.
okay,
And the consequence for code enforcement violations is a misdemeanor.
okay. So
Yeah. Okay. It's a long process, but it's a big consequence.
but there is a process. I mean, I guess I knew there was a process. I just didn't know what the process was.
So, question for you, Brian, is it seems to me that in past sessions, we've faced this kind of a situation where we had people using snow removal equipment in a residential zone and area. And I don't remember it ever being denied. Can you help me on that? Is this a fairly common situation that we're making something bigger of than we need to?
I believe there are several contractor yard type places around town that may or may not have gone through the planning approval process. But it meets the definition of outdoor supply yard by our code, which is a conditional use in the residential zone, so.
So this isn't a unique situation, I guess is what I was saying.
I think we,
The ones that we've reviewed, especially in this area, it seems like the line is whether there are supplies or items or objects or materials being created for construction uses on the site, like whether there's manufacturing of
Right.
stuff happening, and that seems to be where the line has been.
Right.
What about storing of
Well, we had-
materials?
Storing seemed to be on the line of approved versus not.
That's what I was
Okay.
saying, because
Historical.
I've been here 8.5 years, and I've seen a number of these come through. And I've seen the ones that have been denied have been more, like you explained, they're producing items, they're inventorying items, they're
Deliveries all the time, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Okay.
and so this is something that, just general discussion here, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's just something that is out there. And, and it is a conditional use in an R1 area. So it's not like this is the first time we've ever dealt with this.
I
Gotcha.
think one that we did somewhat recently was one on Sheila, kind of the same type operation. If you remember that, and they actually added the building to
Right.
enclose more of it. So there was one just down on the right off Sheila, just a little way,
Right.
a block and a half distance roughly. So I know that wasn't too long ago on that one. It seemed like there was another one we did recently, almost similar. I mean, these are different than the storage units, obviously, because there is somebody on site. It's a lot less traffic. I mean, it's apples and oranges really on that, but
Right.
same general area, which you've already got a lot of stuff going on.
And I kind of, I think the 8 to 10, and not before 8, not after 10, can be refined a little bit. I think it's good certainly for the noisy equipment, and it sounds like they're willing to work with that. So, I don't know. I think it's probably a good idea to go through these 12 items. But there's a little subjectivity in all that too, so.
You also have the portion after the 12 conditions, criteria of approval. There's 5 additional items that give you latitude in prescribing other conditions that you can get to after the first 12.
Is that the design review criteria?
No, it's
Where's the other?
limitations on hours, so you can address that differently. There's limitations on the length of time for the conditional use permit to be exercised, additional landscaping and building beautification, additional or reduced off-street parking or transportation improvements, and or execution of a written agreement similar to CCNRs in a subdivision to make any improvements or conduct any proper behaviors in the same way a subdivision would be.
Right?
Did I cover it?
I learned a lot.
This is Ryan again. I guess one of the things is I'm empathetic with the applicant. I know it is probably extremely challenging to start a business here, and they need a place to store this equipment, absolutely. But I also feel for the other residents and the other property owners that are in the surrounding area. And this does not necessarily comply with the comprehensive plan. And even though it is it is allowed under the current zoning as a type of use, it still needs to kind of meet all of those 12 criteria. And I think, I guess in my opinion, I have trouble kind of accepting this. And I think it is kind of doing a little bit of commercial creep into a residential area.
All right. Well, we can go down the list. So we've done number 1 already. So it is allowed through conditional use permit in that zone. Number 2, be harmonious and in accord with the general objectives and with any specific objectives of the comp plan and this. I guess it kind of is allowed through the right process.
Yeah.
Any other comments on that?
Well, for me, as far as the comp plan, I think it's a little bit hit and miss, but as far, the staff report noted, and I agree, it being also having a business here, that flexibility, what was it that I read? The flexibility, allowing a little bit of flexibility in support of small businesses within our community.
Economic Development Policy 2.4 from.
Thank you, Brian.
Provide a flexible, efficient, innovative, and responsive regulatory environment.
Okay, so,
All
yeah,
right.
And so there's, the big issue seems to be noise.
There's a little bit too, but
Oh,
noise
and-
is probably number one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and rigidity or allowing creep.
right.
Right.
So seems to me that, you know, we can go down here and maybe keep those in mind when we're going through these 12. And also keep in mind that we do want a flexible plan. You know, so once if we have those things that we can think about as we're going through here, and then we can say, have we addressed the concern of noise? Have we addressed the concern of creep? And whatever other ones that might come to play, and at the idea of flexibility. Because looks like, I mean, things can be done to have this meet the have it meet the conditional use permit requirement, I think. Whether it's acceptable to the applicant, what we come out with, I don't know, but I don't know if that adds any clarity or makes it more confusing.
definitely something to consider as, you know,
Yeah.
for each item. So, okay, so we got number 3, be designed, constructed, operated, maintained to be harmonious and inappropriate appearance of existing or likely character of the neighborhood that will, if used, not change the essential character of the area.
If they do what they say they're gonna do, be able to park the equipment behind the barn effectively, and, you know, there's not gonna be a lot of slop over and to follow the rules and regulations that set up in the staff report, I think that would pretty much cover that,
That and maybe some potential screening.
yeah. maybe
They're
some-
already doing some of that.
Yeah, they're doing some of there, but kind of buffer the properties on the east, kind of eastern areas to potentially buffer that.
I guess I would add to that somehow of defining what the equipment is, so that there's some idea of what construction equipment is, so it is properly hidden.
Ryan, what about, like Hagan was saying, there's a weight limit, I think, that delineates large construction equipment from the light duty construction equipment.
20,000 pounds, I think you said.
What would you think about specifying something along those lines?
Seems reasonable.
I think, yeah, I guess you're talking to Brian, or you were asking me. I'm sorry.
I was. I was asking Ryan.
Okay.
Not Brian, Ryan. Brian, turn off your microphone. We don't want you right now.
I guess if Brian wants to say something, though, I would listen to that too.
Yes. I think that is a perfectly acceptable way to define it. So I think that works for kind of the heavy machinery type stuff. But what about all the vehicles that are also in use, and how do they fit into that criteria? So vehicles and trailers and things. I mean, it's plausible to think that there might be, you know, if you get a bunch of employees, you might have 5 or 6 pickup trucks that are also all stacked out there, and all of a sudden it starts looking like a parking lot. So I think there's a way to try to define it somehow to be, these are business oriented type equipment, and that includes the vehicles. And then these are kind of more like residential type vehicles that are parked out in front of the house, like you would normally expect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable because that helps everybody. It helps enforcement. It helps whatever if it's approved.
Well, does he have any type of vehicles that are large, considered large equipment?
The dump truck, I think.
Dump truck and
For me,
maybe
the dump truck is the,
backhoe, that kind of thing? I mean, where's the cutoff there? I mean, is it weight or is it size of the equipment? There's a lot of different variations on these different skid steers and the different backhoes and caterpillars that you know, they use in the industry these days. How do you, I guess you'd have to put weight on it.
well, like one of the things that Kagan said earlier was if it can be towed by a standard max 1-ton pickup, then that's going to be a completely different size scenario from something that requires a semi,
Yeah.
you know, on a trailer to be towed.
Then I'm wondering, how does he get the equipment around when he goes from job to job? Or it needs to come back for maintenance at the shop? Does he use one of those big trucks to bring it if that's the only thing that will haul it? Is that a truck?
He said earlier that type of trailer won't even go, it won't fit onto the property.
So they're all the.
So everything he's storing there is something that he can tow with a pickup. Is that right, Kagan? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, everything that's here now or has been here can be towed with a standard pickup because the big trucks won't fit in this area. I'd have to block the whole road to deal with that, and I already know what kind of problem that could create, let alone what's already been started.
So that might be another way to
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
to
it's pretty
limit.
much it's like a 20-foot trailer that I bring in this stuff on, of course, and yeah. And when I'm talking of all the different equipment we have, I'm not saying everything's going to be here at one time. I'm saying whatever I have on the property would be parked in that hidden blue area on our plot map, hiding it. I'm not stating that all those things will be here. I'm stating that whether it's one piece of, let's say, a dump truck's parked out there where no one can see it, or 2 small mini excavators out there where no one can see it, the equipment will be parked out there. And then the only trailers we have on property are RV and or the 4-wheeler / ATV trailer we have parked over there. And then I have a dump trailer I use for firewood, but that's personal because that's for the house, to keep the house warm. So the trailers we have on site are all personal, and the working equipment would be hidden behind the building, and they are short enough that the building blocks it from the view from the road. And then yeah, and the only pickups that'll be here are, like we were saying, passenger pickups. And then of course I'll have employees, but as of now I don't have any employees. And then I normally run with 1 or 2 employees, for example. And yes, I see that we could get quite abundance of regular vehicles parked here, but I guess
I think most of those you wouldn't be able to see with that really nice.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to see them, but in the 8 years of running my business in McCall, I've had the max of 4 employees for one summer. I normally keep it 1 or 2 employees. And honestly, the way McCall is, I've been lucky to have 1 employee. And obviously all those facts can change. I guess I'm kind of telling you a little bit of the history of how many cars could be parked out there.
What about a dump truck? I thought you mentioned a dump truck.
Yes. If all the equipment's not, if there's no equipment in the blue area, I could back a dump truck in there to be worked on, a tire changed or something.
Okay.
Just do the standard oil checks and walk arounds, make sure all the light bulbs are working and stuff. But no, I could not keep a dump truck and an excavator and a skid. No, there's no way to keep very much here. It's mainly what can be hidden.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the dump truck's the biggest piece of equipment you have? Or
Yes. At this time, yes. And actually, we just got the big dump truck like at the beginning of summer, maybe during our little pretend spring, I guess we could call it.
Yeah.
So, but that's the biggest piece of equipment that would be here. But yeah, it's a little bit hard to drive around here, honestly.
So I wonder, Brian, maybe you can tell me, because the site plan includes specifically the equipment parking only behind the barn, if it's approved right now as is with these conditions, does that basically mean like it can only be parked behind the barn? Does that condition sort of already exist?
Yeah, it's unspoken sort of a thing that the items included in the record are what you're basing your decision off of.
Right,
And
okay.
therefore, you would assume that it would be, if you wanted to put a condition in there to.
It's inside or out.
Yeah,
Because the brown area would be trailers, they've already said, mostly home trailers, but trailers are low profile.
right.
So that kind of stuff, but like the backhoe or skid steers or the dump truck, either inside or in that area.
That area. So to me, I mean, limiting the space in itself is gonna limit the ability to have all of these giant things that we're hypothetically having that, right?
When you say only behind the barn, do you mean just where the edges of the
Right here.
barn is right here?
So
So
if
if it can't be viewed from the road, let's say if someone's coming down the road and you're saying that, and they look back here, as long as it meets the criteria behind the barn, it's okay?
Right here is his designated area. This is
Yeah.
considered the barn.
Yeah.
So
okay.
this is the area that he's identified within their site plan for the vehicle. So it'd be inside or on the,
Right,
now
right
this
behind.
area here would be for trailers and his other stuff, personal and
Yeah.
trailers.
Okay,
But this would be the equipment from what he's identified.
okay.
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 Let's see. Are we on number 4? Did we already do that? No. Number 4, not be detrimental to health, safety, general welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood, such proposed use. I really personally don't see much there. They gotta be, vehicles in and out of the driveway. There's not many driveways there. You gotta be careful of a little bit of the hill, but that's the whole driveway anyway, or that area. Do like the idea that the comments from the neighbor across the street, which will affect some of these as well, that, they're the most directly impacted at this moment in time as far as active use. Okay, any other thoughts on number 4?
No, I
No,
And number 5, not cause any substantial harmful environmental consequences to any land, waters within the planning jurisdiction. I don't see anything applying to
wasn't there
that.
something about a fence that got ran over?
Yeah,
or-
but he's got to put that back up.
I think that's okay.
Yeah, and that's not really environmental.
Yeah, it really isn't okay.
We do have a bunch of fencing on property or on the property to replace that area, but of course I haven't had time to get to it, but I can show that I've at least gone as far as having enough fence pre-staged ready to get put up for the fixing of that barbed wire fence. And I do have it replaced with a nice three rail from Lake Fork Fencing. It's not like I went cheap and just tried to barely cover it up. I am trying to, like we said, move forward. I want my house to be worth something. We want our house to be worth more. So just fixing it better than it was, I guess I would be stating. It's kind of taken me a while to get to it, but it has been purchased and is here ready to put up when I get a little time.
Okay, thank you, Keegan. Okay, number 6, not create any excessive additional public costs for public facilities, services, and will not be detrimental to economic welfare of the community. I don't see that there's any other public costs or
No.
anything with that to be applied. Number 7, be served adequately with essential public facilities, including highways, streets, police, fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water, sewer, schools. Applicant required conditional approval may mitigate any deficiency in public service. I don't see any application to that item. Number 8, not involve any uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment under conditions of operation will cause unreasonably production of traffic noise, fumes, glares, odors, or other forms of pollution.
Says,
You're gonna have a little bit of vehicle starting up, but I don't see it as there's not gonna be 30 different vehicles running at the same time, and mean, as far as major stuff, so.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one trailer in and out there, he doesn't have enough vehicles, I mean, pull that. You're gonna have a little bit, but I mean, a farming area is gonna have a tractor plowing, and even if you're plowing your own driveway, you're gonna have some things if you have your own Bobcat type thing. So I don't see any excessive use. Anybody other comments on that item?
No.
Number 9, have vehicular approaches to the property so designed as not to create any detrimental interference with traffic or in surrounding public or private thoroughfares or adversely affect pedestrian environment. I don't think they already, well, obviously they already have their driveway permit, but wasn't there something else? Still gotta do a little bit of the engineering final approval on anything with that anyway.
Yeah, because
And it's an existing driveway, so it's not something new that's created in that area.
we have. Oh, yeah, because they have to get a building permit and engineering approval.
Yeah, the engineering approval for anything on that. Okay, so that was number 9. Number 10, not result in destruction or loss of damage or any important natural, scenic, or historic features. I don't think there's anything real historic. Those are then the barn he probably already tore down, or the shed.
I don't see anything
Yeah.
like that.
Number 11, beyond the site sufficient to accommodate the proposed use, including yards, open space, no storage, walls, fences, parking areas, loading zones, and design standard applicable.
They do have snow called out, right? I thought I saw.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
he's
the
got some
black.
snow. Yeah, the black areas, no storage. If he stays within kind of the parameters, what's laid out,
Yeah.
He doesn't have, if we limit the size of the equipment, I think that covers some of that. Any other thoughts on number 11? Number 12, have a minimal negative economic impact on the neighborhood and surrounding community. There is gonna be some equipment there, I think.
More than usual, yeah.
Gonna be a few more pieces of equipment. However, I think if we gonna have some additional screening in some of those areas, I think it would reduce any of that impact, and it's technically at this point temporary
Technically, and I think.
and limited size.
Limited, if we add something to try and limit the size.
Yeah. I mean, in that area, there's nothing really to stop anybody if they had 2 pieces of their private equipment. I mean, so.
I mean, I would
It's
almost
not
expect.
Not quite like what we had down further off Cron with, was it RobNet? Not RobNet, who was the other one we had that had a whole bunch of equipment and a whole
Oh,
bunch.
yeah.
Yeah,
High Mountain Nursery, was that it?
no, the one that had, Rocky Mountain Crate.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And they had all kinds of stuff. So that was a huge,
difference.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think with some buffering and some limitations, they could minimize that. Ryan, any thoughts on that, or anybody? Any thoughts on item 12?
Well, one of the things we might consider is, certainly we've already talked about the under 20,000 pounds are towable by a 1-ton pickup. But what about a reasonable number that you limit growth to?
Total numbers?
Yeah, total numbers.
Of vehicles.
I mean, you might be able to do that with, if you can't shield it, you can't have it.
But yeah, I mean, it's,
Something.
Yeah.
I think
for
that
me-
kind of is identified in here because if they're 3 little Bobcats or 4 little Bobcats, you're gonna hide them. So I think if they stay, in my thoughts anyway, stay within the limitations of what they have provided, of any of the equipment, main equipment would be either on the east side of the barn, within the barn, so it's enclosed.
Yeah.
And then as far as the vehicle parking, it's in the brown, would be the trailers. And you say if they got their personal trailers. I mean, we can't really limit an RV or ATV trailer, but I would say, like his tow trailer, if he's using that, it's 20 foot from here to the wall roughly. That would probably you're gonna have that on there anyway, but so definitely require that the dump truck backhoe and any other.
I think, for me, I think I'd rather see a space limitation than a number limitation.
No, I think that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And I think that would
Would
kind
you-
of cover that.
Yeah, because when you consider behind the barn, would you consider like all the way to the property line as
Well,
far
I
as?
think we go by with what he's showing here.
Yeah, just right there where that, okay, where that.
Yeah, so that's their site
Yeah,
plan.
okay.
Ryan, are you getting any more comfortable?
Yeah, I am. I think what you guys have been discussing recently, I think limiting it to just the space behind the barn makes sense instead of limiting like the number of vehicles or number of equipment. Yeah, the space will limit that just fine. And
Yeah.
I think following that diagram or that site plan, if somehow we can sneak that into the conditions of approval, you know, I'm getting more comfortable. So thanks for the discussion.
So, and one thing I would, I mean, if we're gonna add things in before any motions, again, look at the, some additional screening. I think there's a fair amount on the south boundary where he has a lot of that trailer parking already. It does not go to the corner, so that opens up, but I could see, in my mind, some additional trees and screening to be determined with staff along that northeast corner,
Yeah.
Yeah.
both on the north boundary and the east boundary,
East boundary, yeah.
to kind of cover that. So if and when, should say something is developed on that north parcel there, it would be buffered from that. I think the south line is pretty well screened from what it looks on the,
There's trees, yeah.
How about the southeast corner?
well, it doesn't go that far back.
Yeah, okay.
So if you look at the site plan provided again, there's, it goes, it doesn't go that far back on that.
So I'm thinking additional landscape screening.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Final deliberation here.
Then a condition to adhere to the site plan in terms of where the construction equipment or business related.
Well, for,
Yeah.
well, because he hasn't called out, so. Maybe we call out a little bit more that any of the
To separate the business related.
business related,
The personal.
business related is behind the screening, other than the trailer. I would say the trailer it's gonna be flat and low profile. But as far as the truck, any of the gas powered business equipment maybe
Right.
would be, not counting the personal vehicles, would be behind the barn or in.
Or in the barn, yeah. And the brown area right there, that would be that would be business trailers and personal,
Trailers and,
and personal vehicles.
yeah, he's got a camp trailer and an
Okay,
ATV
yeah.
trailer. And I mean, that's,
Recreational equipment.
yeah, we
okay.
can't really,
Sure.
that's where it was identified that he'd be parking that, so.
Brian crafted like a categorical definition that you could apply to that. And so he said he's steering towards 20,000 pound as the max equipment type and then street legal as the split between whether it's equipment or a vehicle,
Max equipment
if you like that.
size. And what was the second part?
And then street legal, so whether it has like the mirrors and seat belts and whatever those weird things have to do to be allowed on the street.
Right. Okay. So that would cover anything that's both on a trailer and or self-driven. Okay. Self-driven.
Whoa, that would be.
Okay.
And then you need to remember to address number 3 on the trees
Number 3.
on the current conditions. Brian, you had, again, what was that? You wanted something that'd be the street frontage and building, or there was some change on that because we missed something on the original conditions of approval?
Yeah, the replace the last 2 words or so of
Oh, yeah.
In this area?
in this area, yes, with on the street frontage between the northern property line and the existing residential building.
Can we have him read that during the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 with Brian's changes.
Yeah, right. And then I'm wondering still if we want to address at all the hours of operation.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to say
I'm almost-
which hours because you kind of follow the storms. If there's a certain amount, I mean,
Well, and what's the issue? Brian, can we talk about for a minute what the idea is behind the hours of operation? Is it an issue of moving the vehicles themselves, or is it a noise issue?
That was an attempt to mitigate noise concerns.
So maybe we address the noise specifically rather than the hours of operation.
How do you do that?
I don't know, we already have-
well, it's gonna have
Do
to,
they fall into city code?
yeah, they're gonna
I
have
mean,
to
they
warm
fall
up
into
a
city
little
noise
bit.
code, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a noise ordinance, and the noise ordinance is 10 to 6, Brian, or is that one 10 to 8 too?
So a certain amount of noise decibels.
Construction
How
starts
do
at
they do that?
7 typically, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think construction is 7.
Oh, and the noise ordinance for the city doesn't apply to the impact area. It would be whatever the county
County,
noise ordinance, if there is one.
I wonder if there is a noise decibel, because we could get a decibel meter and figure that out for the snow removal equipment only.
And every other
Does
snow
he get
removal
to
equipment
talk when I
contractor.
can't talk?
I'm sorry, he's the applicant, so he has to answer some questions.
He's running his business here, even doing the maintenance and welding and
Larry,
Sorry.
it's not the public hearing, so it's either public hearing or not sitting in the room. Those are the options. Okay, thank you.
How does the city do that? Do they actually use a decibel meter to say it is a violation or it isn't a violation?
Usually it's neighbors calling, so that one puts onus on the neighbors. You had this question with the natural grocers design review.
Yeah.
So there was a chaotic noise study involving strange physics equations that I don't really know changed the world in any way whatsoever.
I'm wondering taking that.
So it could be referencing the county noise ordinance.
Maybe the
Um,
evening one, no operation past a certain time in the evening, because you're not gonna do, I mean,
Hmm.
or applicant does everything possible to reduce the noise when he's doing the plowing. I mean, it's,
I mean,
like I say,
it's
plowing is
every
everywhere.
Other plow in the
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
whole Valley County
and
area.
if somebody drives by in a loader from, not, it's his, and I
Wait
mean,
for it.
realistically, we haven't had, I mean, the neighbor currently has no complaints of when it's been happening already, apparently.
Yeah.
Brian, would it make sense to address like snow removal equipment for winter time as opposed to all other equipment?
Yes, I think that would be.
Bigger berms around the.
Like a different level or?
Simplicity, clarity purpose, I think delineating out snow removal equipment versus other equipment would be my preference.
No other snow removal equipment. Only
Except for
prior to
snow
8 a.m.?
removal equipment.
Or just accepting, keep the,
I think except
Could we,
accepting snow removal.
During
During
the
the,
season.
the season.
So
Yeah.
it's not that, it's snow removal
Yeah.
equipment in summer, well, yeah. So
This is our snow removal
except
equipment.
snow removal equipment during the season.
yes.
Is that, what do you think about that, Brian?
Yeah, I think that seems like a good way to go.
Okay.
And do you want to get into accepting it all hours of the day and night or accepting it to a lesser time frame?
You know, I mean, I know what my snow removal guy does and, you know, if we have a big snow event, he can show up at 2 PM when he's usually there at 4 AM. You know, so
Yeah, just get him to show up. So I get excited about right there. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just- You can get out of the driveway, so.
I think the exception is snow removal equipment in during the season,
Right.
because you never know. Like I say, it's,
Yeah.
if there's a big dump at 8 in the after, or 8 in the evening, and you gotta have people out, depending on where they're at and what they're, I mean, just, you never know what his clients would need.
And I guess if it becomes a major issue, then there is the noise ordinance.
There is the noise ordinance.
To fall back on. Okay. Anything else?
Buffer, operation. Plans, looks. You don't have to address anything with the buildings, because if they enlarge, then it kicks into another category anyway
Right.
of issues.
Brian, did they address number 6? You mentioned that one earlier too.
Number 6 is the hours of operation.
6 hours operation.
Liz, Ryan, any other ideas, thoughts, comments?
So looking at what's on the screen right now, number 8, I think we need to tweak the business related vehicles.
Okay.
Okay.
I am adding stuff on the fly.
Oh,
Here.
Brian's updating in real time.
Oh, I was gonna say 8, where's number 8?
Where are you there?
On the screen.
Brian, can you do like 2 more zooms?
Construction and business related vehicles and equipment. What are you thinking, Liz? What's
Well,
your word?
Business related vehicle could be a corporate, truck, like a, pickup truck. So I think we need to be specific about that. It's the construction equipment and not the personal driving vehicles.
What?
Yeah, that's what I agree.
Yeah.
All construction equipment, trailers would cover it, I think.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
I can't.
Construction equipment and trailers shall only be parked on areas identified in the site plan or indoors.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. Thanks.
And then Meredith, remind me and / Brian, what we just considered construction equipment is now defined with this 2,000 pound, or is that another thing that
Number
we?
9, you have the maximum equipment
Oh.
weight shall be 20,000 pounds.
Thank you.
All right,
As written.
Is it both axles or is it one axle? I don't know.
so you can probably make it easy. And
Guess I could make it real
does he have
complicated.
the landscaping up there in whatever condition?
Did you add the landscaping?
Yes, I added that, and then I added construction vehicles on number 5 as well.
Oh, and they wanted Brian along the north property boundary and east property boundary.
Well, the corner.
The northeast
corner,
Yeah.
basically buffering around the barn a little bit,
Equipment store.
right.
some additional landscaping. And if we wanted to specify that, I would say from the edge of the barn to the east corner or the east boundary. And then from the north boundary to, do we want to go any farther than the barn or just that? And then on the east boundary from the north end to the south line of the barn. So it covers that whole corner.
So you're going east of the corner and then down to the south boundary, okay.
Of the barn,
So basically screening the entire
the entire corner there.
corner where they've
The only thing that
delineated.
wouldn't be screened basically is we're gonna pull it in.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Did I get that all right? From the edge of the barn to the east property boundary and from the north property boundary to the barn?
To the south boundary of the barn, yeah, the south end of the barn.
Barn, yeah.
Yeah. And then it does have it'll expire 5 years from the date, so it, basically, if if they weren't able to get anything at that point, they would have to come back
I think.
And
and get a new condition, ask for an extension or whatever. At that point, I mean, a lot of these items are addressed, but it would expire, so they'd have to come back prior to that, or if they were able to find another property to store it, it would go away.
Right.
If they don't come back to us.
so would we be able to evaluate at that point in time to say how they're doing on the stipulations that we put together here, or?
It'd be like a whole new
They're gonna have
application.
to do it well before that. That's
Yeah,
conditions of
okay.
approval, so it's gonna have to be done very
Yeah,
soon.
okay. But
And we'd want the conditions of approval to expire when they sell the property. Can we do that?
The CUP is only good with the owner, right? Didn't we talk about that last time?
Can be if you say it.
Conditional use
Oh.
permits generally only run with the land, so they
So they sell the property, then it expires at the same time then,
So
right?
do we want to limit it to this specific owner?
I would say so.
I would say so too.
Yeah, because another owner is gonna get this and not have the same, he's not gonna have the same
Yeah, not the
conversation,
same.
same equipment, so yeah, it would,
Maybe a possible sales tool for him to get rid of it, or, yeah, I know.
I mean, it would have to stay with the owner. And then
Okay, or
5 years, they'll have to
above,
come back with a new application or ask for an extension or something.
or upon sale of the subject property. Okay.
Do you want to add a whichever comes first?
Well, either one would initiate it,
Yeah.
but it's gonna end at 5 years, period.
Get in early if you sell the
Or if
property.
the other one, it would
Yeah,
initiate
so
it.
Property is gonna end.
I just think it could promote some ambiguity without specifying.
So, we're not specifying.
He's adding
So
it.
just adding the words whichever is first.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a
That's
problem
fine,
with
yeah.
that.
That'll work.
I really
Maybe
like
easiest if
the lawyers.
Motion would be really the same as written.
Yes. So are we ready to?
Any other thoughts, discussions? Oh, Ryan, you're still changing things. Hold on, don't be changing in the middle.
Just so that it's not max equipment weight for the world.
So going back to, we've got some flexibility. We are addressing the noise concerns. We're addressing the hiding the equipment as much as they can. And we're limiting the time. And we're not allowing the conditional use to extend beyond the sale of the property over 5 years.
Correct.
Mhm.
You got it all written down there, Brian? All the conditions?
So do we move to approve the AA? We don't do anything with the AA, right? You guys are
And-
AA.
You can just reinforce it.
Okay.
Lyrical measure.
I move to approve CUP 2203, SR 2206, and AA 2209 with the conditions as revised during this meeting. Does that work?
And it's CUP 2103.
22. I
22.
made a typo. I mean,
Oh, it's 22.
definitely 22.
Oh, okay.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I think we'll do a roll call vote.
Oh, do we have to refer this to the council?
Oh, no,
Oh.
for the commission or county commission.
Or county
Yeah.
commissioners, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I move,
Well, a conditional, yeah,
To
so
recommend approval.
do the county.
To the county
Okay.
commissioners.
I move to recommend approval to the county commissioners.
Just the CUP.
Yes.
or CUP 2203 and approve, correct? SR 2206 and AA 2209 with the conditions as revised during this meeting.
I second that.
Okay, my motion and a second. Brian, can we get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuttle,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemec,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinzer,
Yes.
Commissioner Rock,
Aye.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
All right, the ayes have it.
Motion has carried. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we are down to signs.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We're off, right?
I think.
So we're done, right?
Yeah, you guys are done.
Yeah. Last time we stayed on too long, so I was making sure. Thank you.
We have one sign for the rest in peace to the little ski shop. Rest is now.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
What is?
The little ski shop, not Little Ski Hill. Nobody be that.
Yeah, the one right next to Albertsons.
Yes.
What is? Oh,
It's
yeah.
now the Drift West Boutique / Outdoor Adventure Outfitter, and they have a nice little sign.
Oh, Drift West. Okay.
Yeah, they used to be a little pop-up vendor over by Gravity. It is contrasting in the beige and dark
It's not
brown
white.
way.
Okay.
You mean the little trailer thing?
Yeah, so they were a pop-up little like clothing and like I think fishing, backcountry fishing guide last summer. So they would do bookings and sell like weird belts and rings next to Razzle Dazzle last summer in a vacant lot. But they are going to be the downstairs of this building that's been on the market for a while. And then the upstairs, the new building owner is going to slowly work through renovating just a little bit. But that won't apply because it's not a change in use at all. So I think.
Because
that-
there is a living.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, upstairs has been an apartment.
Oh, there's an apartment in there too?
Yep, the upstairs area. But the downstairs is staying as office space. So it just came through for the sign. And then they mentioned that they might ponder some other signs in the future, but for right now, they just want the one. And I think they're opening.
Yeah, that's good. I did notice that Ronchetta took their sign down.
Yep, they had their 1 week for.
Temporary one up
Yep.
for help and everything else, but yeah, I noticed that disappeared real quick.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's everything.
Yes.
I will be open for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. And we'll have our regularly scheduled next first of the month, Tuesday.
Yeah.
I was way off today.
Before we go, can we,
6:30.
when we're having these public hearings, can we keep the public back here? I was getting like super nervous with him sneaking up
I
here
was
behind my
gonna say
shoulder. I
something.
was like, dude,
Yeah.
you gotta back
I ready
up.
to say something, then he backed a little bit, but I wasn't sure if there was an X over there, so I didn't want to
Yeah,
say.
I kept seeing him out of the corner of my eye and I was like, okay, you
Yeah.
gotta keep people over
Well,
here.
we do have an X over there. That's why I was,
It looked like Alex Ballman.
Oh.
that's what I was thinking. I was gonna say something, it's like, oh, but I think there's an X there, but he did move up and I was about ready to say something, then he scooted
Can we
back.
move the X, especially if it's not super?
Still there. All right. But yeah,
And on that same note, if we can disable the meeting chat,
Yeah, we figured that one out. Yep.
that was awesome.
What?
And just make that like a practice. We just disable it at the start of the meeting.
Yep.
oh, yeah, I saw a little bit of chat.
Yeah, some of the pop-ups.
Throw stuff in there and
Oh.
chat may pop up, so we couldn't really see it, but they would probably see it.
Yeah. Like, for example, when, I don't know, when Maverick comes up, I think establishing a code of conduct every time
Okay,
for a
still
public
listening.
hearing is a good thing to do.
Do what?
Establishing a code of conduct for public hearing
Yeah.
time at the beginning or at the beginning of a hot meeting, something like
The
that.
first one.
Yeah, I would've said a little bit
Was
more-
that one where they were at the door arguing with us and calling us Well,
They're gonna
non-conforming,
sue us.
yeah, not gonna sue some non-performing county or P and Z commissioners, and it was a little bit worse than that, but yeah, I said, what did I got myself into?
Yeah, we had you right up front.
Yeah.
I keep getting asked about Maverick. And I don't know what to say.
People,
Not adequate application materials for a public hearing yet. Brian?
They resubmitted some revised documents. I advised them that what they have provided does not seem likely to be approved based on the conditional use permit standards. And so they are continuing on getting revisions.
you think in July there, Brian, or what?
Yeah, I would say July is probable.
Okay.
And we'll have this at a different location because I'm sure we'll have more public comments in this.
Oh, boy.
The space will handle
Gymnasium at the high school.
Long meeting in June, huh?
that.
Probably.
It was going to be long, but now it will be short.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
The July, they won't be here till potentially July, but Maverick.
Okay.
And
What
the,
about,
Where Toys Live withdrew, so that one's
Oh,
out.
they withdrew.
Did they
Okay.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that property went back on the market
Oh, good.
like the next day. Okay, right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.